I first noticed her laughter before I ever saw her face, low, unhurried, and wrapped in something that made the air feel heavier. The kind of sound that doesn't just fill a space, it claims it. Elena lived across the hall, and somehow the distance between our doors started to feel like the longest few steps in my day. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Just a neighbor, older, self-assured, always carrying something in one hand, books, flowers, a cup of tea. The kind of woman who made stillness look like an art form. But the first time she looked up from her keys and smiled, slow, like she wasn't sure I deserved it yet, something shifted. She said, "You must be new here." And her voice carried that slight rasp people get from both laughter and heartbreak. I said something plain, probably about the boxes still in my apartment, but she looked at me like the words had texture. Like she could feel them. Since then, I've found too many reasons to linger in the hallway. To check my mail twice. To water my plants when I know she'll pass by. And maybe she noticed. Maybe she didn't. One night, I caught her standing outside, barefoot on the shared balcony. The city lights blurred behind her, her hair moving just slightly in the wind. She didn't turn around when she said, "You're quiet. Most people fill silence just to escape it." I stepped closer. Not too close. Close enough to feel the warmth coming off her shoulders. "Maybe I like hearing someone else's quiet," I said. That earned me the smallest smile. The kind that only lasts a heartbeat but lingers twice as long in memory. The air between us changed, softer, but heavier. Her hand rested on the railing, and when I leaned against it too, our fingers brushed. Just barely. Not even long enough to call it a touch. But my pulse tripped anyway. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. From somewhere below, a car door slammed, breaking the stillness. She laughed, quietly this time, almost to herself. "You should be careful saying things like that," she murmured. "Like what?" Her eyes lifted to mine, steady, unblinking. "That you like my quiet. It sounds like a confession." I wanted to say it was. Instead, I swallowed, looked away, and said, "I didn't mean it that way." "Of course you didn't," she replied, but her tone said otherwise. She turned, gathering her shawl around her shoulders, but before going back inside, she looked at me once more, that same unreadable smile, equal parts invitation and warning. "Good night, Noah," she said, and the way she said my name felt like the first time anyone had said it right. The door clicked softly behind her, leaving me alone with the echo of her perfume, sandalwood and something floral I couldn't name. I stood there longer than I should have, my hand still resting where hers had been, wondering when a simple goodnight had started feeling like a promise. The next morning, when I stepped into the hall, her door was open. Music drifted out, soft piano, melancholy but beautiful. She appeared in the doorway, hair loosely tied, sunlight slipping across her collarbone. She smiled, just slightly, and said, "You're up early." I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could, a man's voice called her name from inside her apartment. Her smile faltered. The door closed halfway. And just like that, everything between us, the glances, the quiet, the almost touch, froze in place. I stood there in the hallway, hearing her laugh again, this time softer, practiced. I didn't know who the voice belonged to. But for the first time, I wished I hadn't heard it at all. She avoided me for 3 days after that morning. Not obviously, she still smiled if we crossed paths in the lobby, still nodded if I held the elevator door, but there was distance now, invisible but deliberate. I told myself I didn't care. Told myself she was just a neighbor, that I was being foolish. But then I caught sight of her again one evening, sitting in the courtyard below, reading under the dying light. Her hair glowed auburn where the sun touched it. Her sandals dangled loosely from her feet. She turned a page and sighed, the kind of sound that carried more story than the book itself. I watched too long. Long enough that she noticed. She didn't wave, didn't smile. Just met my eyes and held them, like she was daring me to look away first. I didn't. Later that night, there was a soft knock on my door. She stood there, arms crossed, pretending she'd only come to ask something ordinary. "Do you happen to have a screwdriver? My drawer handle came loose." I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, sure. Give me a second." Inside her apartment, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and rain. The same piano song from before played again, slower this time. Her place was tidy, lived in, a book open on the counter, a cup with lipstick on the rim. There were framed photos, too, her with a man, younger, her laughing in a garden, a few with people I didn't recognize. But there was space on the wall where another frame must have been. I crouched to fix the handle, aware of her watching from nearby. My hands trembled slightly, though I tried to steady them. "You've done this before," she said softly. "Not really. I just like fixing things." "That's dangerous," she said, voice lowering. "Some things shouldn't be fixed." I glanced up at her, and she was already looking away. Her bare foot shifted closer, brushing the edge of my knee. It could have been accidental. But she didn't move it. When I stood, she was closer than I expected. Close enough that I could see the faint lines near her eyes, not from age, but from laughter, from living. There was a ring mark on her finger, pale and empty. I shouldn't have noticed, but I did. "Thank you," she murmured, reaching to take the screwdriver. Her hand brushed mine, lingered a second too long. "You're welcome," I said, my voice quieter than I meant. Something flickered behind her eyes then, hesitation, or maybe warning. "You're too kind for your own good. Or not kind enough," I replied before I could stop myself. That earned a small, uneven laugh. "You don't know what you're saying, Noah." "I do." She exhaled slowly, almost like she'd been holding her breath since I'd walked in. "You shouldn't." The silence stretched, full of things either of us would name. Her fingers brushed my arm as she took the tool from my hand, a light, almost invisible touch, but it burned its shape into my skin. She didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. When she finally did, it was only to open the door and whisper, half to herself, half to me, "Good night, before we both forget what that still means." And for a moment, I thought she might close the door, but she didn't. She just stood there, looking at me, as if waiting for me to say something that would change everything. I didn't. Not yet. The next time I saw her, it was raining. Not the soft kind, but the kind that made everything smell like metal and memory. She stood in the hallway, hair damp, fumbling with her keys. The power had gone out, leaving the floor lit only by the emergency lights, pale, trembling, like moonlight that didn't know where to land. "You're soaked," I said. "So are you," she replied, glancing down at the puddle forming beneath my shoes. We both laughed quietly. It broke something, the tension, maybe, or just the silence we'd both been hiding behind. "Come in," she said finally, her voice a notch lower. "Until the storm slows down." Inside, candles flickered along the counter, their glow painting her face in amber and shadow. I could hear the rain drumming on the balcony glass. She handed me a towel. Our fingers brushed. Again. Always again. "Thank you," I said. "You don't need to thank me every time," she murmured. "Maybe I like having reasons to." She looked at me for a long moment, longer than she should have, before shaking her head with a soft, incredulous smile. "I used to like storms," she said after a pause. "My husband didn't. He said they made the house feel smaller." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't. The candlelight trembled between us. "You're not married anymore?" I asked finally, careful. "No." She didn't elaborate. Just turned toward the window. "Some things end quietly." I took a slow step closer. The thunder rolled, low and distant, like a warning. She must have felt it too, because she turned just as I did, and suddenly we were standing closer than either of us meant to. Her breath brushed my chin. My pulse stuttered. The space between us was a heartbeat wide. She didn't move away. Neither did I. The moment stretched, soft, dangerous. My hand hovered near her arm, not quite touching. The candlelight trembled against her collarbone, catching on the faint shimmer of water still clinging to her skin. Elena, don't, she whispered. Don't make me forget how old I am. I almost smiled. You don't sound old. She laughed, quiet, almost pained. You don't understand how this looks. To people. To me. I don't care how it looks. Her eyes flickered, and I could see it. The pull she was trying to fight, the rules she'd built to keep herself safe. Just then, her phone buzzed sharply on the counter. We both froze. The name Daniel lit up the screen. She moved first, fumbling to silence it, her hand trembling. He's just someone who helps with the gallery. I nodded, though I didn't ask. The storm outside cracked, a sound that shook the glass and the air between us. And then she turned back, breath catching slightly. We shouldn't, she started, but the words never finished. Because this time, I did touch her. Just my hand on her wrist, nothing more, nothing less, but it felt like too much. Her skin was warm. Her pulse quick. She didn't pull away. The candlelight flickered out then, leaving us in darkness. I heard her exhale, slow, trembling. Noah! It wasn't a warning this time. It sounded like a plea. The storm passed, but the silence that followed felt louder. Days went by where we pretended nothing had happened, no candlelight, no trembling hands, no whispered names in the dark. But pretending only made it worse. Every time I heard her door open, my pulse reacted before my thoughts did. Every time she passed me in the hall, my throat tightened with words I never said. Tonight, I found her in the laundry room, of all places. The hum of the machines filled the air, warm and close. She wore a soft sweater, sleeves pushed up, hair loosely tied back. Her eyes flicked up when she saw me. You shouldn't keep showing up like this, she said, half a smile curving at the edge of her mouth. I didn't know you'd be here. Of course you didn't. She turned back to the dryer, but her fingers stilled on the edge. You make it hard to think straight, Noah. It wasn't anger. It was exhaustion, the kind that comes from fighting something inevitable. I stepped closer, the scent of laundry soap and her perfume mingling, clean cotton and warm skin. Then don't think, I said softly. Her laugh broke, caught halfway in her throat. You say that like it's easy. It is, I said, and for a second I believed it. Her hand was on the dryer, and I placed mine beside it, not touching, just close enough that the air between us hummed. She didn't move away. You're too young to know what this costs, she whispered. Then teach me. Her eyes lifted to mine, a flash of something raw, unguarded. You think this is a lesson? It's a mistake. Maybe, I said, my voice rough. But it's one I keep wanting to make. She turned sharply, face inches from mine. You don't understand what people would say. What I would say if I were being sensible. I'm not asking you to be sensible. The air thickened. Her breath brushed my cheek. My hand rose, almost without permission, to tuck a strand of damp hair behind her ear. My fingertips grazed her skin, soft, warm, trembling under the faint hum of the machines. She closed her eyes for just a second, and that second felt like a lifetime. Then her voice came, quieter. You shouldn't touch me like that. Then stop me. Her breath hitched, and her eyes opened, not angry, not afraid, just unbearably alive. You don't know how hard I've tried, she whispered. The machine behind us beeped, startling her. She turned away, pressing her hand against her lips, as if holding something back. I stepped forward anyway. Elena, don't, she said, but her voice cracked on the word. I can't keep pretending you're just my neighbor. She froze. Slowly she turned, eyes shining under the dim fluorescent light. And if I said I can't either? The words hung between us, fragile, electric. The sound of the rain started again, softer this time, a backdrop to our breathing. I reached for her, fingertips barely brushing her sleeve. She didn't move. Our faces were close, too close, her breath catching, mine uneven. She whispered, almost inaudible, Noah, this is how trouble starts. And I whispered back, then let it. She didn't kiss me. Not yet. But when she looked at me, eyes wide, lips parted, the space between us collapsed into something that would never go back to normal. The morning after the laundry room, I told myself I wouldn't see her. I even meant it. But when I passed her door and heard her voice through the thin wall, soft, careful, different, I stopped without meaning to. "No, Daniel, it's not about that," she was saying. A pause, then lower, sharper. "Because he's not you, that's why." Silence. I should have walked away. Instead, I stood there, frozen, heartbeat loud enough to drown out her words when she said, quieter now, "Please don't come here." "Not yet." I backed up, guilt hot and clumsy in my chest. I didn't want to know who Daniel really was, but the name kept echoing. Husband? Ex? Someone she hadn't let go of? The next time I saw her, she looked tired. Hair up, no makeup, sweater hanging loose on one shoulder. Still beautiful, maybe even more. "You hurt," she said before I could speak. "I didn't mean to." "I know." Her voice was calm, but her hands gave her away, fidgeting with the bracelet on her wrist. "Daniel was someone I tried to build a life with. He left. Then came back when he realized no one stayed long enough to know me. Is he coming back now?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. I never know when to stop waiting." The words hit deeper than they should have. "I'm not him," I said. "I know that too," she whispered. "That's what scares me." For a long moment neither of us moved. The hallway light flickered once, a stutter of gold against her skin. "I wasn't lying before," she said suddenly. "When I said you make it hard to think straight. You do. And that's not fair, to you, to me, to the ghosts I haven't buried yet." I took a small step forward. "Then don't think. Just..." She stopped me with a hand against my chest. The touch was gentle but firm. "Don't finish that." "Why not?" "Because if you do, I won't stop you this time." Her fingers lingered there, warm, trembling slightly against my heartbeat. Then she let them fall. "Maybe you should hate me a little," she said softly. "I don't think I can." She laughed once, quiet, broken. "Then you're already in deeper than I wanted you to be." The elevator dinged nearby. We both turned, startled. A neighbor stepped out, glanced at us, then passed without comment. But in that instant, the illusion shattered, what we looked like, what this could be. When the hallway emptied again, she exhaled shakily. "See? That's all it takes. One look, one rumor." I didn't answer. I just looked at her, really looked. The way her shoulders trembled slightly. The way her jaw tightened as if bracing for the next wave of regret. Finally, she whispered, "Come by tonight. If I don't open the door, you'll know it's over. And if you do?" Her eyes lifted, tired, raw, but burning with something she couldn't hide anymore. "Then you'll know it isn't." She brushed past me, not touching, but close enough that her sleeve caught mine, her scent trailing behind like a memory that refused to fade. The door closed behind her. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't sure whether I wanted it to open again or not. I told myself I wouldn't go. I almost believed it, right up until the moment I found myself standing outside her door again, my hand hovering an inch from the wood, heartbeat echoing in the quiet hall. It was late. The building was still. Every sound felt amplified, the hum of a distant streetlight, the faint rustle of the wind through the mail slot, the soft rhythm of my breath. Then, a click. Her door opened. She didn't speak, and neither did I. For a second, the space between us felt like a held breath neither of us dared release. "Elena," I said finally, my voice low. "You opened the door. I shouldn't have. But you did." She stood there, framed in soft lamplight. Barefoot, hair falling loose, the faint scent of jasmine rising from her skin. There was something in her eyes, not calm, not composed this time, but fragile. Like she'd already lost whatever fight she'd been having with herself. "Come in," she whispered. Inside, everything was quiet, too quiet. The air felt charged, heavy. A record played somewhere, a slow piano drifting through the room. I thought about what you said, she murmured. About pretending. And? Her shoulders lifted, then dropped. I'm tired of pretending anything about you feels simple. We stood there, inches apart, looking at each other like we were trying to memorize the moment before it broke. I reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. My fingertips grazed her cheek, warm, alive, trembling. She didn't move away. Her hand came up, resting lightly over mine, holding it there. You shouldn't look at me like that, she whispered. How am I looking? Like you're already sure. I am. She closed her eyes, and for a second, everything stopped. The music, the rain outside, even the noise in my own head. Just her. Just us. When she opened them again, her gaze softened. You don't know what this costs me, Noah. I know what it's worth. Her breath hitched, small, sharp. The kind that says more than words ever could. And then she stepped closer, until the space between us disappeared. My pulse roared in my ears. Her fingers brushed the collar of my shirt, hesitated there, then flattened against my chest. I covered her hand with mine, feeling the quick rhythm of her heartbeat under my palm. This isn't forever, she said. I know. This might not even be right. I know that too. She looked up, eyes glistening, voice barely audible. Then why are you still here? Because leaving would hurt more. The line between sense and surrender finally blurred. She leaned forward until our foreheads touched, a small, trembling contact that said everything we'd both been afraid to. Her breath brushed against my lips. She whispered, You make me feel like I'm still allowed to want something. I whispered back. Then want it. Her eyes closed again, her hand tightening over mine, and in that fragile silence, the truth finally settled between us. Not promises. Not forever. Just two people standing at the edge of something they both knew would change them. When she finally looked up again, her voice was steady, but soft. No matter what happens next, she said, you'll always know I opened the door. And somehow, that was enough. Morning came quietly, no thunder, no sudden noise. Just the slow warmth of sunlight finding its way through the curtains. She was sitting by the window when I woke, hair tousled, sweater wrapped loosely around her shoulders, mug in hand. The city beyond her looked softer, like it hadn't made up its mind to start the day yet. When she turned toward me, her smile was small, real. You stayed, she said. You opened the door, I replied. That earned a quiet laugh, not nervous this time, just tired in a way that felt peaceful. She gestured toward the seat beside her. Coffee's terrible, but it's all I have. I sat next to her, close enough for our knees to brush. The faint warmth of her skin against mine was grounding, steady, no longer the charged electricity of before. Something calmer. Something that felt like truth. We didn't talk for a while. We didn't need to. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It just existed, comfortably, like we'd both finally stopped fighting it. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. I spent years trying to live sensibly, making choices that looked right to everyone else. And now? She shrugged, eyes still on the window. Now I just want to choose something that feels right to me. Her hand rested on the edge of the couch, close, open. I took it without thinking. Our fingers fit together easily, like they'd done this before in some other life and were just remembering how. I don't care what anyone says, I said quietly. She smiled faintly. You will, eventually. People always care, it's how we're built. But maybe not today. There was no grand confession, no promise of forever. Just the quiet honesty of two people who'd finally stopped running from what was already there. She leaned her head against my shoulder. I felt her sigh, that slow release of something she'd been holding too long. I used to think love had an age limit, she whispered. And now? Her fingers tightened slightly around mine. Now I think it just has a timing problem. We both laughed softly at that. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't supposed to be. The sunlight had crept further into the room, warming the floor, the air, her hand still resting in mine. I turned slightly, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. She closed her eyes, smiling. No grand declarations. No fireworks. Just the feeling of being exactly where we were meant to be, even if only for now. Outside, life went on, cars passing, neighbors chatting, the city breathing. Inside, it was just us. Two people who'd spent so long pretending not to notice each other, finally letting the silence mean something else entirely. She whispered, half laughing, "You still make trouble sound like home." And I whispered back, "Maybe that's because you are." The music started again, soft, familiar piano notes drifting through the room, and neither of us moved to stop it. Just quiet warmth. Just her hand in mine. Just enough.